Hey everyone, welcome to the Growin Up Podcast. We're your hosts. My name is Amber,
And my name's Nevaeh.
and we are back this week with another episode of the Growin Up Podcast. If this is your first time listening, thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and listen to us, and we hope that you come back again next week.
Yeah. Super excited. Super excited. I think this is our second week in a row now. So I think that's a new personal best for us on this end. So hopefully we can keep the momentum going and keep the conversation going as well. Lots of good stuff coming. And yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, we're trying this thing where every week we try to share something that we've learned over the past week. So, since you went last week, I guess I can start off this week. My thing that I learned this week was I learned how to make spinach and artichoke dip using a slow cooker. So, I had a Friendsgiving that I was going to, and I already knew that we were going to be showing up late. So, I was really like on the fence of like bringing a main dish or like, do I bring, I didn't know what to bring. So I was looking up, I used that AI first off, and I found like some
Oh,
good
really?
ideas. Yeah, it was like spinach and artichoke dip. Well, it didn't say that, but it just like chips and dip.
Oh.
And then I used that and I Googled it, found a recipe, and I made it. It took like 2 hours. I
Oh.
put all my ingredients in a bowl and everything just melted. And I stirred it occasionally. And then I bought a bread bowl, like a round bread, and I carved out the middle and I put the spinach and artichoke dip in there.
Dang. Okay, what would you rate it compared to like where's a Cheesecake Factory has spinach artichoke, Applebee's, I think, right? Applebee's?
Yeah,
Where would you put it?
I put it solid. It was pretty good. It was really like
Oh,
similar to
really?
what you would find at a restaurant, yes. But here's the thing. I made spinach and artichoke it before and I tried to make it really healthy. So
Um,
I use Greek yogurt and I use like cream cheese that was like really low fat and it was like very chalky. So this time I like compensated. I used regular cream cheese, but I still used Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. So it came
oh,
out a lot better. Yeah. So those things matter.
that's interesting. That's interesting. Ah, you'll have to make that for Christmas or something.
Yeah, for sure.
You should make it like your signature dish now. Now that you know how to make it, when you get invited to a friend's house, you know how you bring
Yeah,
something.
that's a good idea actually. I'm gonna get one of those, have you seen the like fire thing to like melt the cheese on top, the crisp? Like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
torch?
yeah. Yeah, that'd be super good. And then you can get like a fancy plate from like Home Goods with the like made in bowl for your dip. That'd be so good.
And the chips on the side?
Yeah. Ugh, adulting. Adulting.
Yeah, but that's what I learned this week, so your turn.
Ah, what did I learn this week? So you haven't watched Wicked. I haven't watched Wicked either. And I recently got like pulled into the TikTok side of Wicked, and there was this girl and she was teaching about like how all of the movies and like books are tied together and just like the history of Wicked. And I not a huge Wizard of Oz fan, but like obviously like I've seen it a couple times. And one, I didn't realize that it was that old. Two,
Yeah.
did you have you ever heard of the like have you ever heard of the what is that called? Like all of the things that the Wicked or not the Wicked, the Wizard of Oz actors went through?
I feel like I have, but I don't
Yeah,
remember.
like they like painted the Tin Man with like some sort of like material that was like bad for them, and he I don't know, he got like sick or something. It's just like I've just learned about the whole history of it all, and I also learned that there is a spin-off of it called The Wiz. And The Wiz is like a spin-off, but it has like an African American like crew, and Michael Jackson is in there, and I didn't know that. And so yeah, I was shook. And then I also like learned about like Wicked, and like I'm not a huge like musical person, so like I've heard about the musical because my Sam was in theater. So I just like kind of learned about like every like how everything elevated and whatnot. Like I don't know. I'm not a huge movie person, like the history of movie. So it's always interesting to see how like new spin-offs come.
Yeah, well, that's crazy because I in my podcast that I listen to in the morning, they were saying that Wicked is actually doing really good in like ticket sales right now. So
Mm.
it's I think it's the second most like revenued movie right now, but that's not even counting because we're going into a holiday week. So like a lot of people are going to start going to the
Oh.
theaters, so it could even surpass what they um, were already projecting. But I also heard that they needed this to do really good because they already have Wicked 2 coming out. So,
Oh, dang. I didn't know that. See, I just learned something on top of what I learned. But yeah,
yeah.
no, I think it's just crazy. Like, think about how, like, in the future, people are gonna be like, have you seen Wicked? Like, kind of how we see The Wizard of Oz, and you'll be like, oh, you haven't seen Wicked? I don't know. Just thinking about,
They're
like,
gonna say,
those
"Oh, that was
historical
made so
moments.
long ago."
Right? And I'll be like, I was 20. How old am I? I was 23 years old when I came out.
Why you gotta talk like that? Can I
Because
still
I'm
be
be
living in North Carolina?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I guess I wouldn't talk like that. I could say that for the moment, but yeah, no, that I was just kind of like shook on like how many spin-offs, because when I originally thought of Wicked, I thought that it was like a already made up storyline, but like it wasn't. And even like the books that The Wizard of Oz is based off of isn't even like what The Wizard of Oz is. It really talks about each of the individual characters, like the lion
Yeah.
and the Tin Man and all of them. It doesn't necessarily have like the whole storyline of like
Hmm.
them,
I
Dorothy
honestly
going
didn't even
there.
know there were books.
Yeah, and then I was like, maybe I should read the books.
Right. Um, you know, one thing that I'm trying to get into since I've been living out here, is going to the library because we grew up in Flagstaff in Arizona, and one thing that was a big thing when we were younger, or at least when I was younger, I'm not exactly sure how much this translated to you, but I used to go to the library like a lot. Like the library was my shit. So recently I actually got a library card and I went to go check out some books, but I miss like the old town vibe of Flagstaff's library because there's just something so aesthetic about that where nowadays like libraries are becoming more modern and stuff. But did you go to a
I'm
library
crying.
back in Flag?
I, I'm just gonna say I'm crying because I remember the first time you took me to the library and you got me a library card and you taught me how to access the computers. Do you remember that?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah, and then there was like that, like the tree house or like the little like
Oh, the
bunk
room.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I remember when I first got my library card, and I also remember being late to drop off my books a couple of times and being sad because I didn't want to be penalized.
Oh my.
But no, I agree. But
Oh,
also though, I think that has a lot to do with like the distance to where it is from where we went to high school. I don't know. I feel like I went there a lot to study. Um, like
wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I see. I
especially
was
on
going to the
Wednesdays.
library. I was going to the library to go print lyrics
Oh
because,
my god.
that we didn't have Spotify with your lyrics on there already. I had to go print my lyrics and I would be walking. I'd pay like 10 cents for all my pages of printing.
Dang. That's
Yeah, I
crazy.
and also when I was super, super young, like mom used to take us to check out books and they were like really old books. And I would even check out like cassette tapes and you would like listen to them while you read the book. And they even had cassette tape players set up there so you could actually listen there if you really wanted. Or you could like go take them home and use them.
Dang. I knew
Yeah.
they had movies, but I don't
Yeah.
even know where our library is, to be honest, here. Maybe I should go look for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of libraries here, which maybe there was in Phoenix, but like it didn't really give me that vibe of like, oh, I want to go to the library. But I think now that I'm here in Denver and it reminds me a lot of Flagstaff. Like it's like a
Oh.
mountainous like place. It's more like neighborhoody. I don't know, because I can literally ride my bike down the road and I'm at the library. And if I ride my bike that
Oh.
way, there's another library. So I think it's just more friendly here.
Oh, like more accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, more accessible and it gives me that hometown vibe, I guess you can say.
That's cool. That's cool. How long has it been since you lived in Flagstaff?
I moved from Flagstaff in 2013. So it's been over 10 years since I've been away.
A whole decade.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, did you have to put it like that? A whole decade?
That's that's crazy. No, that is crazy though. That's a long time. Well, I guess it's the same as you reminding me that I graduated high school 6 years ago. I wasn't
Yeah,
in
we
high
thought
school.
she thought she graduated like 2 years ago. And then she started having a life crisis when I told her it was like 5 years ago.
That's crazy. I like Flagstaff though. I kind of like I always tell people when like I tell people where I'm from or like where I grew up, I guess essentially. Like I always tell people like if I didn't grow up in Flagstaff, I would consider like have moving there. But like I just know so many people there that like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But it is a nice area. I do like Flagstaff a lot, and sometimes I'm very proud to tell people that I'm like from Flagstaff because
True.
people always have good things to say about Flag.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I think is funny when I tell, because I live here in Denver now, and during the winters, they're like, "Oh, you're from Arizona, not used to the snow." And I'm like, "Well, actually, I grew up in Flagstaff, which is like just like here. Sometimes Flagstaff gets more snow than here." So, and they're like, "Oh, you get snow in Arizona?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. That's exactly what I would tell people when I lived in Minnesota. I would always like tell them, I'm like, well, Flagstaff got more snow than Minnesota did this year. And they would be like,
Yeah,
really? And I'm like, yeah, yeah. But I
right.
don't think people understand like how beautiful Flagstaff snow is. At least like compared to when I lived in Minnesota. Like you could go out and build like a snowman or go sledding.
Yeah.
And like you can't really do that like in Minnesota. Like it was too cold. I never seen a snowman in Minnesota.
That's funny because my first time I went to Minnesota was actually a Christmas, probably like 2010. And I saw all the snow right when we like parked when we got there, and I went to do a snow angel, and I fell back and it was frozen. Like I didn't even make a dent in the ground, and it hurt so bad. And I was like,
That's
yeah, this
funny.
is not Flagstaff.
That's funny. That's exactly what happened with Sam. I thought I was like joking around, I was like gonna push her, and then she like fell over, and it was like straight ice. And I was like, oh, my bad. And like I just met Sam. Like I had just met her. Like I lived with her maybe for like 2 months, and I was like, ah, push her, and it's just like, and like her hand was like all cut up from the snow. And I was
Oh
like,
my god.
yeah, because it's
That's
sharp. It's hard.
true. Um, I remember when I was younger, that was my favorite. The first like heavy snowfall in Flagstaff was my favorite because I would stay out late and it would be super warm because it's like not yet cold. So
Yeah.
we would like just go make snowmans in the softball fields and go sledding in random areas. And I'd be coming home at like literally almost 11. And it's really beautiful because the first snow, it's always very lit. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
at night, it's middle of the night, but it's like orange outside and it's just a different vibe there.
Yeah. Where was I? That's a real question.
I don't know.
Uh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, me and Amber grew up in Flagstaff for a lot of our life. Well, a lot of my life. Amber grew up a lot of other places as well because age difference, age difference. But we did grow up in Flagstaff a lot of our life, and where we grew up was actually like for people that do live in Flagstaff, like the where Dutch Bros is now. That used to be just straight dirt, and that's where Amber learned how to drive in that area.
Oh my
Was
gosh. Thanks.
Yeah, there was nothing there. Have
We
you seen
call
it
it
now? There's
the
like
South Side. That was South Flagstaff.
yes, but now it's got towers and
Oh, true.
houses.
We lived there before the main road was created right there. We used to turn on that little road. Remember by that house with the
Oh
mannequins in the window?
yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was those were some good times. So yeah, we've always grown up granola girlies. We've always been like yeah, literally granola. And it's funny because I use that a lot here because I fit in a lot more in Denver because it's a lot more like the same vibes as Flagstaff, the mountain town, the granola vibes. Like we grew up with that. So when I moved here, it was like I was back at home.
That's
How is it?
crazy.
How's it been for you? Like Minnesota, the North Carolina?
Minnesota, definitely a big transition. I think even just like terrain, environment wise, like there was no trees. Like you would be driving on the main road and you would just see like straight fields, and like you obviously see like a little tree, but like not like Flagstaff. But then when we moved to North Carolina, like we have a shit ton of trees. Like there is so many trees that like when we first moved here, we were trying to go to Target, and we missed the Target because the sign was covered by trees and the Target was surrounded by trees. So we missed it. So, like, I think now being here, it gives me a lot more of like the nature vibe than Minnesota did, which
Yeah.
is nice. And obviously, like, the mountain is 2 hours to the west of here. So, like, I'm
Mhm.
sure I could find that somewhere else, but like more I guess mountainous townish
Yeah.
area, but definitely love the trees and like having leaves. Except, it's nice here because growing up in Flagstaff, my our mom would always, we had a lawn, so she would always make us take care of the lawn, whether that be watering the grass. But the worst part for me was the freaking pine needles. That's the one thing I don't miss about living in Flagstaff, is having to clean up the pine needles.
True. Like when you have to actually pick them up and put them in the bag or something.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And like
I feel
here,
that.
there's so many leaves, and like I can deal with leaves, but they're a little slippery. But at least they're not like giving you splinters and stuff like that. So,
That's funny. I always say now, I'm like, when I can't wait to own a house because I can't wait to shovel my like sidewalk because when I lived in Flag, that was my duty. I took it very seriously. I would go outside and I'd shovel to make sure because my mom was also really scared of ice, so I had to make sure she had
yeah,
her path carved out to her car.
yeah, Amber is very diligent about it. I, however, on the other hand, would sit on the side and play in the snow.
True.
And we go get some
Um,
hot coffee or some hot cocoa.
hot cocoa, and we made an igloo one time. We would always make a snowman, but we made an
Mm,
igloo one time, and I couldn't even fit
yeah,
in it, but she could.
yeah. But now that I watch like a lot of like first responder videos, I could have been trapped in there, Amber. Like, what if that thing collapsed on me and I would have been like suffocating in there? I was gonna say, like, what I miss a lot about Flagstaff, and like, it didn't happen every year, but like with the holidays coming up, it was always nice when there was snow on Christmas. And like, I have not had like that like Christmas feeling in like a very long time. So that's definitely something that I do miss about living in Arizona, and like the pine cone drop and like kind of those rituals and whatnot that we kind of
Yeah.
grew up with, that I'm not sure if they have them here, but like, it's just a little bit more like different had growing up with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of that has to do with like seasons also because like you get
Mm,
the full effect of fall when it's like Thanksgiving and then it like turns cold and then all of a sudden like it's snowing and the lights
yeah.
are up and I think that's one thing I really like about here is like I've been able to find those like the rituals I guess you can call it
Yeah.
like the lighting of the Civic Center downtown. It's like our main kind of where attraction where they light it up every year and then it stays on throughout Christmas season and just all the events that go on, which I think I do miss about Flagstaff.
That's something I want to do this year. It's definitely like also a big thing growing up in Flagstaff, maybe even just growing up with my mom, but our mom loves parades. So we would like wake up early in the morning, get ready to go to the parade, get a good spot. And I miss the light parade. Had you guys have one of those?
We do.
Dang.
Yeah, we have parades. That's another thing about it here is it gives me Flagstaff vibes because there's so many parades and like I can't even keep up with all the parades.
Dang.
Yeah.
Do
Like
your
that Halloween
universities?
one. They're all at different places too. I mean, not all of them, but like
Oh.
they're never really stationary.
Oh.
So, like, the Halloween one is, like, down in this other area, like, it's called Broadway. I don't know what it's actually called, but the street is Broadway. And then,
Yeah.
like, the light parade is downtown, and so
That's
they're
cool. That's cool. Oh, I do miss Flagstaff sometimes. I do. I think I do. Just obviously, it's probably just because I'm growing up. But it's always nice to kind of just think about how, I guess, like lucky I guess we got to grow up in like such a tight knit community. Our mom did actually worked for one of the Native American organizations there, so I would say, at least for myself, that I I was able to kind of have that community there, multiple different communities, whether that be like school or my mom's job and whatnot. That was the other thing. Mom used to make us volunteer all the time. Like there were so many events that I look back and I'm like, why? Like, why are we here at 7 a.m. on a Saturday setting up for this dinner?
Or the
But
runs.
or the runs. That was the other thing. Everybody's like, oh, like, did you ever do any runs like in flag? Like I heard that's a big. I'm like, well, my mother used to tell me the day before, oh, hey, got you signed up for the 5K tomorrow, having not ran in like months. So I'd be out there freaking running all over. Do you guys have trails like that though? Like actual trails?
Yeah.
Like dirt?
Yeah. Like
Oh.
yeah, there's trails. There's like a lot like flag where you like pull off and then you can just go onto the trail.
Hmm.
Um where was I recently that I saw one that I actually wanted to go see? I don't know, but the other day I was driving around and I was like, "Oh, I never seen that like trailhead." So probably go check
Yeah.
that one out. I want to start like getting my bike out more like to trails like that.
Yeah.
I'm
You
not ready
should.
to like go all intense, but like those kind of trails, like the I think I can handle that.
Yeah. You
But
need like different tires.
what? I mine's a mountain bike, like it's a dirt one.
Oh.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not.
Well, you ready to go? What are you waiting for? Get out there. Just
Well,
kidding.
well, um, something that wasn't on my 2024 bingo card. I broke my tailbone, so it might be a little bit longer until I get back on the
Oh
bike.
my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Dang, that's
unfortunately.
crazy. Well, I know.
You know,
Here you just picked up this hobby.
I know, I I've always been into bikes like my whole life. I think that's also a part of living in Flag was like I liked bikes and so it was nice to actually get my own bike now that I'm older and I'm like, "Oh, I can have the money for this hobby." But the hobby went too quick. No, I'm planning on getting back into it though eventually.
That's probably good though, because with like the snow and the cold coming up,
Yeah, true.
yeah,
You
so
know, I always thought I'm not like I was hoping for a broken tailbone, but you know, I always thought that if I were to break my tailbone, it'd be because I slipped on ice.
that's a valid reason
Because my
considering where you live.
mom ingrained it in our head that
Yeah,
we
that's
had to be really
true.
careful of ice.
Yeah, you do not that we do not like the ice. That's and like where we lived was like a slope, so I feel like that made it even worse. Like at the greenhouse, like it was like straight slope.
Yeah.
What was
Well,
your favorite thing about Flag besides the things that we talked about? Like what was your favorite thing that you wish that you had that you don't have?
ooh, that I don't have now?
Yeah.
It's probably being so close to Grand Canyon. Like
Hmm.
I miss like Grand Canyon. We lived by Grand Canyon for a couple years of our life and it's just always been somewhere where like we would go just to hang out and I really miss like having that place to go. Maybe I should go find my own place, like out in the mountain here,
Yeah.
but I do miss like the easeability of like going to Grand Canyon because like that was our shit and that was what we like to do and we would do that randomly. So I miss
Yeah.
that. That and going
Yeah.
to Williams. Yeah.
Williams is cool, yeah. Amber went to school in Williams for a little bit too. Amber went to school. How many schools did you go to?
I went to like 9 or 10 different schools from kindergarten to when I graduated high school.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I think I'm up there too, but like not that high up there.
You're probably there now with all your colleges.
That's true. That's true. But
If I were to add my colleges now, that'd be like, sheesh.
you be hitting the 20s.
I'm like, yeah, I'm right. 9, 10 plus 4. Yeah, almost like 15 schools my whole life.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did move around a lot growing up. So usually sometimes like when people ask where I'm from, I usually start with like Flagstaff, Northern Arizona, because like Amber said, we did live in not in Grand Canyon, but we lived in Valley, which if you know where the Flintstone Park is, if you've heard about the
Was?
Flintstone Park, but if you haven't heard about the Flintstone Park, it's worth searching up because it's actually pretty cool. Like, it's just like randomly sitting out not that far from Grand Canyon.
True.
It's
It
kind
was
of
our bachelor.
random. It literally was, yeah. And obviously, like with age, it's deteriorated, but it is definitely kind of a cool thing to be able to experience. So we grew up there, grew up like obviously like back on a reservation sometimes, Flagstaff. So a lot of northern Arizona. But for me, I think one thing that I did like and kind of like that I don't have here is the amount of Native Americans because like I do live in an area where there's not a lot of Native Americans, but I think like more like specific like physical location. I don't know. I would definitely say like
The
I don't know. That's a hard question.
things you miss about Flagstaff are not Flagstaff.
I was gonna say Aloha barbecue.
Oh my god.
That's funny. No, I do miss. Yeah, I think definitely being like close to like the
La
Grand
Fondas.
Canyon. Oh, La Fond, the Mexican food. I mean, that's just an
Oh,
Arizona thing, though. That's just an Arizona thing. Um, I think yeah, just like a lot of the like good things that you find growing up, like La Fondas and like those
yeah. The small
like even like
town, like,
kickstand. I think
yeah.
it's like very specific things that I miss because like kickstand's a coffee shop in Flag, and I miss their chicken salad sandwich. Like I have never found a chicken salad sandwich like the one from there. So just like those little things I think I miss. Like
Yeah. That's freaking hilarious because at the kickstand when I was in high school, they had these things called steak bites. And they were like steak, like little sushi thingies, and they were so good. And all my life, ever since high school, I've been trying to find steak bites. And like I even Google it once in a while. Like, was that just a thing that Kickstand made? Like, and their smoothies?
yeah,
Uh,
dang. I also miss though, which I don't think I've necessarily found a place here, and obviously probably because of where I live, but like if you're from Flagstaff, you should know this place. But Lowell Observatory, like the lookout, I think that was always like pretty cool to be able to like, like it's something from a movie. You don't really like get those often where like you go hang out on the mountain and look at the city. I don't know. I thought that
right.
was always pretty cool, like just a vibe.
Yeah. Did you hear that they just revamped the Lowell Observatory?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's like it's going viral now. So I don't know if you've ever been there. I went there for a couple field trips when I was younger, but it was already pretty cool. But it was just like a museum, like just
Hmm.
a typical museum. But now they're making like very immersive and like it apparently has like
Oh,
all these cool like new feature things that make it just more new, I guess, more modern.
yeah. I've never been there.
What?
Yeah, I've never been there.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of disappointing. I
Yeah.
always like that was the closest I got was that Lowell Observatory. But also when we used to live when we used to live towards like more like on the road to the Coca-Cola factory thing, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That trail that we used to run, that actually goes up the same mountain that Lowell Observatory is on. So like if you run on that trail, it'll take you to the back part of Lowell
Oh, wow.
Observatory. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And it'll take you almost to the dorms basically if you take the right roads, which
Yeah.
I've never made it that far.
One thing I do like that I like about Flagstaff also is I like that the way people dress there.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's a lot more casual and it's just more like, I don't know, free. Which is,
Yeah.
since I've moved here, I've definitely taken that back on. And because when I lived in Phoenix, I was like city girl, like, like
Yeah.
I
You had
had
to put on a
all the
fit.
yes, I had the
Yeah.
sneakers, and now I'm like, I can wear whatever the fuck I want. Like, I can get this
Mm-hmm.
colorful ass jacket, I can style it, I can layer. It's fashion. Granola fashion is great.
Okay, don't be going out there with bare feet though, please, or those toe
Oh my
socks.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, Amber used to play hacky sack with somebody who used to hacky sack with bare feet. You remember him?
Yeah, downtown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I think like the freeness of it, but also it's kind of contradicting because sometimes when I do go home, because I know so many people, I still feel like I have to like, like you're just bound to run into somebody.
That's one thing I don't miss.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, like, I feel so self-conscious sometimes when I'm there because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna run into someone I know."
Yeah.
But I don't know why. Like, why am I scared? Like, am I just like like, why am I so afraid to run into people I know?
I think it's just because like you know it's gonna happen. You know, like it's happened before, so you know that like the possibility of seeing somebody is gonna happen. Like it's just I think about it kind of just like how my fear is because like I taught undergrad classes, so like I have told myself like I cannot go out in Chapel Hill. Like I know I'm gonna run into my students, and like it's not that I don't want to talk to them. It's just like you gotta set a line, and that includes me strolling the streets of Chapel Hill.
True, like, you're not hopping the bars there because you teach the kids.
Yeah, exactly. I taught.
Taught. Past
Previous,
tense.
past tense. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. That's I do agree though. I think that does obviously happen to me a lot when I go home as well. Like which is funny because mom used to be the person that would be like, go run to the store. You know, once you got your driver's license, she was like, go to the grocery store. Give me some cheese. Give me some milk. Some eggs.
Sounds like my grocery list today.
Ah, did you go to grocery shopping?
I did.
No, I did not. I did not.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So how do you think, like, growing up in Flagstaff, like, how did that kind of influence the way that you, I guess, like, do you recycle more because you grew up recycling? Because some people don't recycle.
yeah. I think that is true because there's a lot of people that don't know how to recycle. You know, like I think that's a big thing. Like you know, with the numbers on the side and knowing what your recycling does take and that kind of stuff, which I learned in school. I think also a lot of the like nature aspects, like I have learned a lot about like growing up in Flagstaff, like stay on the trail because like, you know, that's your trail or like just things like that or even just like I know like at Camp Colton I learned how to like tell the sun with my hands, like how when it's going to
Oh,
set, just like kind of those things. But I think like from a more like serious standpoint, um I think it's just because it's a very big, like I wouldn't say it's like very diverse, but I think at the time being growing up, it was more diverse than one was used to. So like
yeah.
going to Kinsey, I did go to like a I guess lower income school, so like there was a lot of people like students of color there. So I think that did set me up for like being able to interact and kind of understand and be open-minded towards certain things because I like grew up with that kind of environment, which
Yeah.
obviously like then going somewhere else where it doesn't have that, you kind of realize what the dynamic is. So like understanding that from a very young age, I think helped me a lot to where I am now, because now I kind of understand how to be a little bit more open-minded and introduce myself to people, to like interact with people. I think it was a community that was very like homey, so you kind of
Yeah.
felt like you could
True.
introduce yourself, so finding that comfort in different situations. So I owe that a lot to like the small little town that I did come from.
Yeah. Would you say that Flagstaff is a small town?
Not as small as it used to be, for sure. I think
Yeah.
it has definitely grown, but when we lived there growing up, I would say it was a smaller town. And obviously now with like the college growing, I think that has a lot to do with it, with NAU. Which did you ever think about going to NAU?
Yeah, I applied.
I didn't apply.
Well, I had some NAU credits from that summer program that I went to, but
Did you get a free
yeah.
application then?
Yes.
I'm sure everybody in it, like Arizona Flagstaff, does. I don't know why I didn't
um,
apply.
True. I thought about going back, like when I decided to go back to school. I was like, I could go to school up there, but
Yeah, they're
yeah,
definitely developing, and I think like it's cool also to see, because I do have a lot of like former high school classmates that go to school there, are still pursuing their education there. It's really cool to see the work that they've done for NAU specifically, with in regards to like the Native American community and whatnot. So it's definitely cool to
Yeah.
see it grow there. Obviously, the number of people and like how that has dynamic has changed from like people coming from out of state and like California. Like I think that's also very interesting to observe from not living there but had grown up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely had a big effect on the city. Like now there's a lot more apartments and it's growing up, like the city's growing upwards. Which I think is kind of cool because
Yeah,
it's better than spreading out for now. I mean, the traffic is a little
yeah,
iffy, but
that's
it
true. That's true.
it was funny though because when I was visiting mom, I went to go get food and I drove a good 15 minutes across
Hmm.
town, but like it's so close. And when I got back, my mom was like, "Where did you get that?" And I told her where, and she's like, "You drove all the way around across town?" And I'm like, "It's literally right across the tracks and like down the road." So, but to mom, that's like all the way across town. But for me,
Yeah,
it's like everywhere. It's just 50, like 15 minutes is nothing now.
that's true. That's true. I get what you're saying though, because when you are in a small, I guess then it would kind of consider like a smallish town if you're driving 15 minutes across town.
Yeah.
No, what I was gonna say was gonna bring up back to like it growing up. I I lived there when NAU was building I actually don't know. I think it's like a bioscience kind of building. I actually had a class in there. But at the time I was taking human geography, AP human geography, my freshman year. And that was like a topic of interest because like during that time, Flagstaff did have like a set guideline to how tall buildings could be because they wanted to keep the like historical aspect of it. Same thing with the bricks, like they wanted the bricks to match the other
Yeah.
bricks of the downtown area. So they built this like copper building, tall as fuck, like like if you've ever been at Flagstaff, it's pretty tall. So it was just interesting to see that like be built and then to see what had come after it. And like obviously now like there's a lot of like politics involved in the city of Flagstaff. And I did I did go to a lot of city, what are those called? The city meetings,
City Hall.
city hall meetings. Yeah, I did go to a lot of those. So like I did hear like a lot of like the background noise of like what people were saying and how
Yeah.
um like the town overall like ran, which was interesting because I think that like not a lot of individuals kind of see that part of Flagstaff and like the background
Yeah.
talk of like allowing those kind of things to be developed,
Mhm.
which again is interesting.
Yeah, I think that's partially also I in the last episode I kind of said that I wanted to get involved with things like that with like city meetings and council stuff like that because in Flagstaff like that was a thing.
Hmm.
It kind of reminds me of Ginny in Georgia where your town is more involved with its actual like growth and development and how it is ran and all that. And I don't think I felt that in any of the other cities that I lived in, but here I'm feeling encouraged to be a part of that as well. So I think that
Yeah.
is one thing that I really do like about Flagstaff and just a smaller town vibe was being able to be involved with your community in that way where you actually feel like you have a voice or you hear people speak their voice.
Hmm. Yeah. And like even too, like looking back, like again, I was in Native American club in high school, so like seeing like how those conversations go over too. Because I don't know if you know this, but Flag High actually made a hogan for the Navajo students to use at Flag High, and like that was in discussion when I first like left high school. Obviously, I wasn't directly involved with it, but now it's developed, and it's just kind of interesting to see like how that turns around and like how obviously like I'm not exactly sure like what the truth is now because I don't live there. I'm not involved in the community um like I once was, but it's just interesting to see like how that has developed and how can like that framework be applied to other like places and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I heard they're making a Native American center as well,
Hmm.
which like a community center for the city of Flag.
Oh,
So
that's
it
awesome.
just yeah, so seeing how like that develops because Minneapolis has one,
Yeah,
and they
I was gonna
use
say
it.
cities have them, so that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so obviously, again, growing in its own ways and whatnot. So it's cool to see the city that we once lived, but also like it's different. It's different. Like I went home and I'm like, oh, this is different. Like, what happened to that building? Just kidding. There's an In-N-Out.
True. I can't wait to go to In-N-Out, even though I've been to a million In-N-Outs. I'm like,
Which
that
is
one
also
is
crazy,
special.
right? Which is also crazy because like when I lived there, like the talks of like an In-N-Out have always been there, and like people
Yeah.
are like, no, like you can't build an
It's a
In-N-Out
myth.
because yeah, they're like, how are they gonna get the meat there because it's so fresh? Like just like those things, you know, like they said it was impossible, and now like it's possible, I guess. So shout out to those people that In-N-Out
That's
that
fun.
got the In-N-Out.
Speaking of food, though, I think that was another thing that I really learned living in Flag was like there was a lot more like natural food grocery store. Oh, at least there was more for it being a small town.
Oh yeah,
And like we used to go shopping there a lot, and I feel like now it's something that I like again about Denver is like I like going to like the Sprouts or like the Whole Foods or like the smaller places that are out and around. So
yeah.
I think it's I I definitely grew up granola when it comes to food.
Oh yeah, yeah. Our mom was a almond mom. If anybody knows what that is. Do you know what an almond mom is?
You told me what an almond mom was
Isn't that
recently.
mom? Yeah, no, we definitely like the organic juice boxes,
Yeah.
or make sure you have a vegetable with every meal, or yeah, we definitely shout out to our mom for instilling that in our head.
Yeah. And now it's funny because like with our significant others, like we're like pushing that on them because they didn't really grow up like that. So like sometimes I'll put something random in front of my girlfriend, like, oh, we only have oat milk or we only have almond milk. And she's like, what is this? Or like olive oil butter that went through her and light ranch. She's not about that one either.
Yeah, AJ isn't either. And it's also funny too because when AJ first moved with me when we lived in Minnesota, you know how like mom makes enchiladas and then she puts like lettuce and tomato on the side, kind of like what you would get at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So AJ for the longest time thought it was a salad. And I was like, no, you're supposed to put it on your enchilada. And he was like, oh, where's the ranch? And I was like, no, it's not a salad. You're supposed to put it on, like mix it with your enchilada. So funny. So yeah, that definitely. And I think, yeah, I think that has a lot to do with like growing up in Flag. That dirt spot that we used to live by, it was dirt.
Yeah.
But the first thing they ever built in that section was a natural grocers.
Yeah.
And that's
And they
where
had
Amber
the
would drive to.
best chips.
They did the blue corn
The
tortilla
blue corn
chips.
chips, yes, and that's why I always get those now. They're never the same, they'll
Yeah.
never be the same, but I mean, yeah.
It's still like it's not the same like natural grocery store that it used
Yeah.
to be, but it's still like I'm pretty sure it's like I don't know, it's still like a organic store though, I'm pretty sure. Um
Yeah.
yeah, which is interesting. And then they built like the furniture barn that turned isn't that like a natural grocery store too?
Yeah. You know, when that place was closing, we bought a piece of furniture from there, and then it closed. So, I can say I got a furniture from the furniture barn.
Right? The
I don't remember what it
staple.
was, but yeah.
The staple, that's yeah. And it's interesting though because like now like in larger towns and cities you do see like a lot more like healthy alternative places like a smoothie like those smoothie shops where they sell like the little like vitamins
Oh,
shooter.
like the
You know what I'm talking
shots,
about?
the immune
Yeah,
shots?
like the little detox ones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that has definitely become like a larger concept now, and not just like specifically like in Flag, but like a lot like California,
Mhm.
for example, LA, like you see those a lot more often.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot more expensive compared to what it used to be, but it's kind of interesting how that has sort of become like almost like a trend for
Yeah.
a long time, or like now it has become a trend now.
Mhm.
So but we've always kind of been like in that wave of
Yeah. Yeah.
like in a sense, you know.
Yeah. The other night, my friend was saying she's a gluten and dairy free, and we were talking about because she's from South Carolina, so she's from the South, and she was saying that one thing she really likes about Denver is how food friendly they are when it comes to like allergens. So when she goes to
Mm.
restaurant, a lot of our restaurants here like say gluten free, dairy free, like already on the menu. And she said she feels awkward out in South Carolina in the South because she's has to be like, is there this in this? Is this breaded with,
Oh,
flour? And like she says she feels really bad because they like look at her like
with
just eat
like,
it. But
yeah,
yeah, but she is just more self conscious out here of food allergens when it comes to like restaurants and stuff like that.
that's interesting. That's kind of cool though, because I feel like, but I'll like then you also think of like obviously like a lot of diets have become into factors. You're kind of realizing a lot more about like how your body reacts to certain things and whatnot,
Mhm.
which is also interesting to see like how different communities take on that portion of it and like from a health standpoint. Like I don't know, I seen like a statistic somewhere and it was like showing like which states are like the most healthiest, which I don't exactly remember what the details were,
Which
but like the
states?
like states, yeah, what
Um,
states were like quote unquote the healthiest. I don't actually remember what it said on it, but
mm,
it's just interesting to think about like those kind of things that put into the standpoint of it all. And
yeah.
um
Actually, I learned that Boulder, Colorado is like the healthiest city in America.
oh
And there's
really?
one YouTuber. Yeah, I watched this video of this YouTuber. He goes out there and he's like, so like, do you feel more fit? Like he was asking everyone and he went to all the restaurants because they only have one McDonald's for their whole town. So they don't
Oh
have like big food chains like that out there. And like even for McDonald's, that's surprising because those are everywhere.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like there's a city out there that's as big as Flagstaff almost, and they only have one McDonald's. That's kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's interesting too because also in Flag there was only one of everything for a minute. Obviously, like now I'm sure there's two of everything, but like if you want a Panda
Yeah.
Express, like and you lived on the other side of town, like you would have to go to that specific Panda Express or that specific Chipotle. Okay, I just like Panda Express. That's why I'm
I was
bringing that
gonna
up as an
say,
example.
I remember when Panda and Chipotle were first
Didn't
built.
exist.
They didn't
It
exist. Yeah.
exists. Yeah, but you get what I'm saying though. Like there was always just like one specific place that you could get that food at,
Yeah.
and obviously like I was not gonna drive all the way. I didn't have a license
Yeah.
at the time.
And I think that's why we learned to go to those like low key, like town restaurants, because we weren't going, if you had to wait in line for McDonald's, like you were just going to go somewhere local and try that out.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And it's crazy too, like how like these small little places have became like such a staple for like not just like Flagstaff, but also like because Flagstaff is for those of you that don't know, Flagstaff is a border town. So it's about like an hour and a half to Hopi and then like maybe what like 40 to 30 minutes to the reservation like line like Navajo Nation.
Hmm.
So like yeah, it doesn't take that far for it's still a drive by all means if it's being your like largest city, but like there is a large amount of Native Americans that do come from off the reservation to Flagstaff to do laundry, grocery shop, and those kind of things as well. So it's interesting to see how those like Hunan West, like the Chinese restaurant there, like how that has become a staple in the community, and um,
Yeah.
it's just kind of interesting to see how those specific places, Mandarin
Yeah.
Garden.
Well, on top of that, Flagstaff's a tourist town, so it also brings a lot of
Mhm.
traffic as well as being a college town. Like there's a lot going on in Flagstaff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a huge diversity of people coming through
Yeah.
Flagstaff a lot of times, and yeah, like the Grand Canyon has a lot to do with. That's like the biggest thing I hear people say that like the only reason why they ended up in Flagstaff was because they were going to the Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
and they were like, oh yeah, like the nearest place we could stay in a hotel was Flagstaff or something like that.
Hmm.
So it's again a big flux of people from all there for a different reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I do think it's crazy though, which maybe you know a little bit more about it. I'm pretty sure there's like a large amount of like Hawaiians that go to school at NAU. And I think that's also a big concept for a lot of like small town places or like more like environmentally friendly like
Yeah.
places like they are just attracted to Flagstaff for that specific reason, which
Hmm.
is interesting because like who knew this little university would just
Yeah.
become a target for a certain population Because I
Yeah.
do see a lot of people on my For You page that like come out of Flag, like from NAU. And I'm like, whoa, NAU on
Yeah.
my For You page?
That's funny. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which I guess my answer is not answered.
Yeah. I never went to NAU, but I will always say like I supported the lumberjacks. Like that was just also part of the culture was like I walked through that campus so many times and that's another thing I miss about Flag is just the walkability. I was walking all over that town. So I know the backs and forwards of that of those streets.
Right? I remember when I don't even remember how old I was, but Amber took me on an adventure where she taught me how to ride the like the public transportation, like the city buses. And I remember now. It was right before you went off to college. And then you were like, I'm gonna teach you how to ride the city buses. And then went all the way up to Lake Mary. We went all the way to the movies, and then we went to mom's work all the way on the other side of town, and then came
Oh,
all the way back home. And I was like, geez. But that did give me a lot of freedom when I did get to like middle school, which probably should have not been running around town like that. But like me and my friends were able to go to the mall because we would take the city bus, or we would go to the movies or go downtown and whatnot. So I think that
yeah.
definitely gave me a lot of freedom.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing too that's nice about Flagstaff and just small town vibes is I guess you feel comfortable. Obviously, you should always be aware, but like I
Yeah.
felt comfortable going out and riding the bus like that. Um, which is something I got back into recently is riding the bus, public transportation. Yeah.
I think I did too once I moved here. Obviously not in like Minnesota, but I think compared to Minnesota, I have rode the bus more times here than I did the 3 years I lived in Minnesota.
Yeah. I miss that. I miss like the vibes. I obviously love where I'm at now, but it's always nice to go home and get a little bit of that nostalgia from going back.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, like I always tell people that if I wasn't from Flagstaff, I would definitely have considered going to NAU or moving there because of just the environment. But because I am from Flagstaff, I do know a lot of people, which I knew for myself that like in order to grow and be just grow in general, like change was always important and figuring out like how to find yourself in a community that it wasn't necessarily the community that you came from. I think that was something very like that I knew I wanted to do, and hence why I left Flagstaff right out of high school and moved
Damn, left
to the great
state.
old state of Minnesota. Too far.
I know. And that's why I got the hell out of there.
And that's why I got out of there. No, I definitely like I love the area, but if you want to experience, change, I think that's always a good. I think everybody should always, and whether it's like moving across the country, moving cities, moving, across town, different places, like
Yeah.
it's always a good way of figuring out a lot about yourself and figuring out
Yep.
like what you're capable of, because you're
Yes.
not used to those certain things anymore. Like you don't really have that comfort in like you go somewhere, you're like, oh, I know that person, or like I know who works at this store and whatnot. Like you're going and you're
Yeah.
talking to a stranger, which I think are important things to learn. But again, like doesn't have to necessarily mean like moving out of state, or
Yeah.
if anything, it's more of just about like trying new things and finding new opportunities that um might not necessarily make you the most comfortable.
Yeah. Getting out of your comfort zone. That's for sure. Cool. Well, I think that should wrap us up today. For all of you people who do live in Flagstaff or even in some other small town, I'm interested to know kind of like your guys' thoughts on growing up in a town. If you're still living there, what is that like? Because that was always a choice that we had as well. Like, what if we stayed? Like, what if we stayed in that
Yeah,
small town?
that's true.
Um, or yeah, I'm just curious to know what you guys think.
Yeah, so comment down below your favorite place to eat, your favorite place to go hang out,
Yeah.
any memories that you have in Flag if you lived there for a long time. I think sometimes it's always nice to hear people pull out like things that you might not necessarily remember, but it brings you back and you're like, oh wow, like
Yeah.
just certain things. So definitely tell us a little bit more about your experience if you do live in Flagstaff. If you don't, tell us about why you know, what you like about your own place that you grew up, or what you miss about your hometown. Just, you know,
Yeah.
give us a little insight into where your head's at with you know, hometowns.
Well, thanks everyone for listening in this week. If you haven't and you would like to support us, please follow our page on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube. We have some goals there that we're trying to achieve. So if you guys could hit that little button, it would be very much appreciated. Yeah, thanks for listening to the Growin Up Podcast.